Hey everyone, welcome to Geek Tank, where everything's a matter of geek. I'm your host, Kay.
And I'm Zia.
And today we got a special guest. He's well known throughout Central Florida, the geek scene, the nerd scene. He does a host of a bunch of events. Like, there's way too many to name, but we will get through them. We have none other than the motherfucking Kent Ward.
Yo, what up, everyone? Glad to have you all watching me today on Geek Tank, and happy to have these guys with me as well.
So, let's get right into it. Why are you called the motherfucking Kent Ward?
Oh.
Who were you before you were the motherfucking Kent Ward?
I was always Kent Ward, but when I moved to Orlando, this song was playing on the radio from 50 Cent, where he identified himself as the motherfucking PIMP. So, my brother was in the car with me when we moved up and drove up, and he referred to me based off the song as the motherfucker KENT.
Oh,
or
shit.
something to that effect, and it just stuck as the MFK going through college and all that good stuff, and people just started calling me that, and it worked out pretty well.
So now we clarified it why you're called the motherfucking Kent Ward. So yeah, as you can see, we're gonna be pretty explicit over here.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to a random ass 50 Cent song that was playing on the radio.
So let's get back into you said you moved down here from where did you move down?
I lived in a small town called Tamarack, right outside of Fort Lauderdale. Tate's Comics is not too far from where I lived. Mm-hmm. Anyone who's from South Florida knows what Tate's Comics is. So
yeah,
pretty much like everyone knows the comic shop in Gods and Monsters. It's that South Florida equivalent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a Florida native then?
Yep. Born and raised. Born in Plantation. Lived here almost all my life. Had a brief stint in California, but almost the entirety of my life has been in Florida.
Okay, so we're well known to that Florida man, myth and legends over here.
It has grown. It's become more spectacular. It's here in Florida. I mean, I'm trying to make cool events happen, but everyone's idea of a good time is throwing a baby alligator through a Wendy's drive-thru window.
Or using an alligator to open a beer
Did that actually
can.
happen?
Oh, those are actual things that happen. You're not paying attention to what Florida man's up to?
Dude, there's too many to pay attention to.
Florida man's in the news every single day. We're just that weird child of the U.S. Like, come on, you're doing this again?
We're the hypest state in the union. That's why when they did JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in America, they chose Florida instead of Delaware.
Of course, it's the only place you could choose.
So I gotta say, man, I mean, you have been killing it, been hustling it over here in Central Florida with the geek and nerd scene. How did that go about? How did you start that?
Okay, so I moved to Orlando and I went to Full Sail University down the street for game development. Many years ago, went from 2003 to 2005. Shortly after I graduated, shortly after I graduated, I got more involved with the community. I was going to conventions like Anime Festival Orlando and MegaCon already. And then I started hopping around on a forum called Orange Anime that was very infamous for its time, but it was also the launching point for a lot of people in the community. Mm-hmm. However, I was there talking some smack about an event at a convention that no longer exists. It was J-Con. I wouldn't say rest in peace, but I would say good riddance. However, I was called out well, why don't you do something? So I did actually presented a panel there. My first ever panel was actually on Naruto, and that was at J-Con 2006. Okay. And then it just snowballed from there where I was organized meetups for Orange Anime, like going ice skating or going bowling or going to the movies or whatever, going to Rocky's Replay back when that was around. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've been around here over almost 16 years now. And then from Orange Anime, I was a teacher at Full Sail, and they wanted an anime club at Full Sail, so that's when I started Propeller Anime.
Oh, nice.
And that went on for over 12 years. We just had a bowling meetup today, actually. But I ran anime events. I ran anime showings at least once a month for 12 years straight. Mm-hmm. And that led to me working with MegaCon. That led to me working with Anime Fest for Orlando. And then when I got really interested in nerd music through stuff like Overclocked Remix and hearing Megaran and Dwayne and Brando, and going to Nerdapalooza, I thought that was cool. But with Nerdapalooza, they weren't really that interested in the anime crowd, even though the anime cons around here had way bigger turnouts than Nerdapalooza. Yeah. So I thought, there's an audience here that would love this stuff, and they just weren't interested. It's all right, I'll do it myself, and that's how Ongaku Overdrive started.
Oh, nice. So, can you tell me a time where when you first started listening to the nerd chiptune music and just nerd rock and geek, that geek music that was related to the things that you actually like?
Absolutely. Probably around the year 2000. Overclocked Remix had already been established late 1999. I actually just talked to Larry OG when I was at MomoCon. He had submissions director at Overclocked Remix. and they're coming up on 20 years. Their anniversary is actually December 11th, but sometime after that, I stumbled upon them because there were Nintendo fan sites that were playing video game radio.
Yeah.
Internet radio just started to take off, and Overclock Remix was played. So that's how I found out about them. But they're also playing video game cover bands like the Mini Bosses, the Advantaged, and Eskimos, and the One Ups, of course. Those were like the original video game bands, and they were playing those guys. And the Mini Bosses stood out to me the most at the time. So I found their website, found their music. They actually had videos of them doing concerts somewhere, wherever they were, and I was like, what? There's like a video games bands out there that like play concerts live in front of people. That's wild. So I think I might have been 16, 17 at that time. And that's when that was my initial interest in it. Mm-hmm. So I was always down with Overclocked Remix stuff. Yeah. Then like 2009, then in 2009 is when I started finding out about guys like Dwayne and Brando and Mega Ran. Dwayne and Brando were very lyrically explicit video game rap duo that had some really fun YouTube videos where they took game footage and they rapped over it.
Oh, nice.
And they told some very fun stories, like Battletoads is. They tell the story of these two of the characters of Battletoads just going through the game, and then at the end, they pretty much promote domestic assault on the evil queen final boss, you know, or just like some of the lyrics they had were very clever, especially for games like Mega Man and Final Fantasy, where they just tell the story of the whole game in the form of rap. So it's kind of like a rap musical of a video game. So that's what Dwayne and Brando was, and Mega Man was more like traditional rap. The first song I actually heard of his was Splash Woman. Right after Mega Man 9 came out, he did a love story based on the Splash Woman theme that Ippo Yamada composed for that game. So that's when I found out about that. Then when I found out those guys were going to be at Nerdapalooza in 2010, I went to it with some friends, and that's when it all really changed.
Oh, wow,
so I'm coming up on 10 years of being involved in the nerd music community. Like July 17th, 2010 was when Nerdapalooza happened. So since then, I've been involved in some way, whether it be as a fan, whether it be as guy checking tickets at the door, wristbanding people, and then doing my own shows and podcasts and all this other nonsense.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I see you've just been like nonstop hustling, whether it's podcasts, you have your own podcast now called the Nerd Music Meltdown. You stream on Twitch.
Yep.
You know, as a content creator, you are on so many outlets, and the things that you're doing is like hasn't been, you know, no one else is really doing that in Orlando in comparison to like the nerd music scene or like, you know, the anime scene in a sense. Like, it's got to be overwhelming, man. It's like, how do you have time for all this?
Well, it's really challenging to balance everything. I got a relationship that's been going on for some years. Sometimes that's rocky, sometimes it's doing good. Currently it's doing good, but there are a lot of rough patches here and there because I'm not spending enough time to my girlfriend, you know, or not spending enough time with my friends, etc., etc. And I think one of the keys is I had this talk with Travis Vengroff, who used to be Careless and Random Encounter, and he's doing a big thing right now with audio dramas. And I'm like, how do you have time to do all this? Because he's turned into his daily job because it's doing so well. But he's like, well, I don't really have time for hobbies or entertainment anymore. And it's kind of like that in some ways. Yeah. So I've kind of turned my hobby into this whole promotional thing where I'm doing events. But I'll make time sometimes to, like, you know, watch a TV show or watch some wrestling or play a video game. However, that's very few and far between. So most of the time I'm working on stuff. I have a day job I go to. Yeah. When I get home, I'm either podcast editing, video editing, doing social media posts, driving around town, putting up posters and flyers, working on contracts, trying to get sponsors, trying to get musical acts to sign contracts, all that stuff. Yeah. All stuff that goes into making events, that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like, you know, as this big content creator, people really don't see, like, the challenges that go into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of time that goes in. And mine's a little bit different because I'm doing live events on top of, like, streams and podcasts.
Yeah, it's just insane. It's just like, you know, even for us, like, we just get overwhelmed with just having to constantly post something on Instagram, something on Facebook, something on Twitter, something on this, and it's just like, it's just nonstop. And it's just like, sometimes, like, for us, like, honestly, like, we have to, like, take a step back and, like, okay, take a break, get our bearings back, all right, then just right back into the hustle.
Yeah, I'll use bathroom breaks at work to do social media posts. Like, I just ate lunch. I know what I'm going to do after lunch. I'm going to set up my scheduled posts for Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff, and I'll be good to go. Well, I'll try to do it first thing in the morning. Like, I'll use applications like Hootsuite to schedule what I'm doing throughout the day, so it goes out at like maybe 3 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever my peak times are.
Hey, what is the criteria of music, like, or musical acts that you look for whenever you're trying to do an event?
That's a great question, actually. So, at first, I was like really wanting to get more involved with the anime side of things. My goal was actually initially, okay, I'll have acts like Richie Branson and Mega Ran and stuff like that, but I also want to build to maybe eventually have like top J-Rock acts from Japan that do music for anime and games. And I'm not saying that's impossible, but that seems to be far out of reach at the moment. It's a cool goal to have, though. But I mean, my criteria is like, what are video game fans and anime fans and comic book fans going to be into? So obviously, things that include video game music in some way, whether it be like chiptunes from a Game Boy or samples from like popular game soundtracks, that's going to work. Same thing for anime. Like a lot of people rap over remixed anime themes or OSTs or whatever, or they produce that stuff from the ground up, like DJ Joe does that. That works. Or maybe they have songs about subjects that are pertaining to nerd culture, whether it be like internet hacking or technology, or raps that tell stories of anime and video game characters, or maybe social issues that affect the world, like things like Gamergate have been rapped about. Inclusion of like women and minorities have been rapped about. Representation of those of women and minorities in our media have been touched on in our songs as well, or even like things about the Me Too movement have been referenced, and consent have been referenced in songs, because internet culture has a lot of toxicity to it, so it leads for a lot of subjects to be addressed about, hey, we're nerds when the video games and anime, but maybe we conduct ourselves better as people, so there's some of that going on as well. And sometimes it could just be a lot of fun, silly stories about just, hey, I'm a nerd, well, it's changed a lot. A lot of the old nerdcore rap, you had a lot of songs that were about hacking, but you also had songs that were about, like, I can't get a girlfriend, I can't get a date or whatever. And things have moved past that point where now there's a lot more nerdcore that's emerging that's covering more social issues, not just being raps about anime and video game characters.
Yeah, exactly. That used to be a thing of the past, I believe, like the nerdcore, like geek trope that is like, I'm this guy who likes these things, and I'm going to be like this lonely guy. But now it's become so mainstream and more accepted in
nowadays
this era.
To be a nerd, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helped out a lot with the Marvel movies, like Spider-Man in 2001 or 2002. Actually, it was 2002 with Tobey Maguire. I think that was the start of things. But also the anime boom occurred around that time with Dragon Ball Z and Gundam Wing and Sailor Moon. And wow.
Wind outside recording.
Yep.
We had the wind come through and be like, yo, I want to chime in as well. So yeah, the anime boom with Toonami in the early 2000s, and Pokemon came around in that time, and nowadays, well, everyone who grew up on Pokemon's now like in their late 20s, early 30s, and like Pokemon was so huge that almost everyone around that age played it, Yeah. So that helped normalize things, and now their kids are into it as well, so it's now generational. And then the big thing, of course, is the whole thing with Disney buying Star Wars, buying Marvel, creating movie franchises with those. Marvel events are now massive, so that's helped things as well. Now those kind of things are on TV, and now it's starting to spread to pro wrestling, where there's an aspect where you can obsess about it like a geek with all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes and whatnot. And now that's starting to spill over into the mainstream, because a lot of these news sites are realizing, hey, if we actually cover wrestling, all these nerds who like wrestling are going to come to our website and create traffic. So I think what really came down to is nerds have money, and nerds can control like viewership and whatnot and ratings. So now that the industry understands that, they want to tap into that, because that means that money goes to them.
Yep. Now, do you think it's like a kind of like a double-edged sword in a sense, though? Like, where it's like, okay, I feel like, sometimes Disney has like a big monopoly, and you feel the same way too. It's it seems like they have like a big monopoly on over a lot of franchises, and it's just like,
they just got Disney Plus. I think they got Hulu as well, right?
Yeah.
So they own a lot of media, and plus the Fox merger, or acquiring Fox Entertainment, that's going to change a lot of things over the years. So I feel like Disney in some ways does have a lot of power, especially here in Orlando.
Oh yeah.
Because one of the things I struggle with is the tourism industry. We get a good turnout, but I feel like compared to other cities like Atlanta or DC or Seattle, those places are doing a lot better than Orlando as far as turnouts for like nerd events or conventions. Because here in Orlando, it's like, well, what do we need to do that? We got Disney and Universal right there. And even then, a lot of the people that would be into that stuff are working for those places. They're either working on weekends, or even though Disney and Universal charge so much for their tickets, they don't pay their employees that well, so we got a lot of people that would be interested in our events, but they can barely afford to pay their bills, so they can't come out. So I really, as an event promoter, feel the struggle of what Disney's doing, especially here in Orlando.
Yeah. It is pretty insane. It is like a hard struggle for us.
Yeah.
Especially for the independent artists.
Yeah, especially for the independent artists, and it's just like, something about Florida too is that we have so many events going on like back to back. And it's just like it's hard. I feel like people, really aren't like coming together to make something. Instead of it's just like, okay, well, I just don't agree with that thing, so I'm just gonna make my own, and just like, okay, it's just kind of like a big divide in this, this nerd geek scene. And stuff.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of oversaturation of conventions for that reason. Some come, some go, but it feels like when one dies, three come to try to take its place.
It's the
The
Hydra.
big Hydra.
Yeah, yeah. So there's that aspect, but yeah, there's also places like the Geek, because there's places like the Geek Easy and Player One and Arcade Monsters and Cloak and Blaster and Gods and Monsters and Campus Cards and Games and all these other places. People are trying to start up their own thing. Like I'm involved with CEO Gaming.
Yeah.
So I'm very familiar with what's going on in the fighting game community here in Orlando for that reason, because of who I'm connected to.
Yeah.
And there's like multiple weekly meetups all over town, whether it be at at a place like Buffalo Wild Wings or a Mellow Mushroom or at Campus and Cards, or even the Geek Easy that has like something on Tuesdays or Wednesdays or whatever. And I mean, fighting games are really hot right now, especially with the new Smash game and whatnot. However, I feel like, man, that's a little bit too much, and why can't some of these events just consolidate?
Yeah.
Actually, one of the things I thought was crazy is I went over to one of the Polarity events that they did at the Geek Easy for Smash.
Yeah.
Then I walked down the way to Campus and Cards, and they're doing like all the other fighting games in there, and I'm like, yikes, guys. I mean, I feel like it would be more intelligent to pull all the resources together, maybe do a big monthly event.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be like CEO big, but like it'd be more substantial, like at a more significant venue that can hold a lot of people. But everyone wants to do their own thing, so it kind of spreads everything thin. Yeah. And I feel like that kind of happens with. Oh, I wouldn't say it happens with nerd music, because like with the flavor, like there's other groups like Tiny Waves out there that are doing something that's really cool, but it's different from what I'm doing. Like I'm focusing more on video game bands and nerdcore, whereas they're focusing more on DJ shows. So it's like different flavors, and there's the crowd for the most part is unique, so it actually works. Not everyone's gonna like the same thing, so stuff like that's fine. I can't do shows every month anyway, so it's good that there's other promoters out there that are doing events to help the talent here like grow.
You want to add question?
No.
You're right there. Like you've been awfully quiet there.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, I just mine's in other places today, but
So I mean, you've been doing this for quite some time now, and some of the
12 years.
events, 12 years. And right now, you got an event coming up called the Orlando Overdrive.
Yes.
And it's the 4th year of doing it.
Yeah. So this idea came up, and it was just a state of things in Orlando. I was in a car with IQ. We were actually doing a panel at Holiday Matsuri, a convention here in Orlando that takes place in December. And we're doing a panel on nerd music, and we were meeting up with a couple other people, but me and IQ carpooled. But one of the things we talked about is just he's been traveling a lot.
Yeah.
And he's been to other places like Austin, where in Austin, when they do concerts, the local artists in Austin actually end up being the headliners, because the people in Austin feel like that's how it should be. Like our guys should be headlining. Yeah. So if someone comes through for a tour, they're not the ones closing it out. It's their local guys. So he's like, why don't we do that in Orlando? And I'm like, all right, that could be an idea. But like the discussion came from past shows like Nerdapalooza and whatnot, even my shows where we had Orlando guys, but they always just opened, and they felt like they were just filling time until like someone like Megaran went on stage, you know. So what was the solution we could do for that? And also things in Orlando were rough for musicians in general, and still are. Yeah. Where there's a lot of different promoters in town, not just like nerd music guys, but like I'm talking like music promoters in general, where you're booked here as a local act to open. You're not going to get paid with anything other than exposure, and that kind of sucks if you're trying to, become stronger as an act. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but when's the last time a major act came out of Orlando?
None that I can think of.
Yeah, I think the closest thing was like Blow on the Dance Floor, and I don't think that even counts. No. Other than that, it was the manufactured like Mickey Mouse pop stars like NSYNC and Britney. Yeah. Right. And that was like, that was set up in a boardroom, so that wasn't like something that came out of here.
Yeah, like not like organically came out of here.
Yeah, exactly. So that's never happened because there's just a stranglehold on the music scene here in Orlando, because the promoters here are running things in a way that benefits them, but it doesn't benefit the music scene. So that's happening outside of our nerd music spectrum, but it's still a problem because some of our guys do play out with those shows. So I was like, all right, IQ, how about we do like a show where it's just all Orlando acts, and we put the spotlight on them, and it's gonna be like the best Orlando acts because of things like Nerdapalooza that have happened and since gone. It did actually create a community here of people that aspired to be musicians that could play on shows like that, and we developed a lot of great talent for that reason. So I was like, all right, we got guys like Random Encounter, Mark with a C, Neskimos. I was able to get them to come back after being on hiatus. Ben Briggs, Shammers. Yeah. There were a lot of great guys that were right here in Orlando that could kill it on stage. So we did a show based around that. And the first one was at Back Booth, did very well, and we're like, let's do it again. And now we're on our 4th year.
That's awesome. Do you feel like venues sort of discriminate against people that are nerdcore, as in like they think it won't really have an audience?
It's hard to say. I mean, like when I pitch numbers, I'll use the Abbey as an example. We did Mega Mania a few years ago at the Geek Easy. Sold out, and that was basically like we had 245 people there. We probably could have fitted a few more, but it was already uncomfortable. But we probably could have crammed some more people in. So when I did the pitch to the Abbey, I was like, hey, when we were pitching Powers of Encouragement, Legend of Zelda themed show, I pitched it to the Abbey. Like, here's what we did to Geek Easy. We definitely need a bigger space. Here are the things we want to do. And within an hour, I got a phone call to be like, all right, let's do this. And it took about like a few weeks, but we got things locked in. So, and that went well enough that, hey, we're back later this year for Warriors of Light on November 9th to do a Final Fantasy show of similar style. So, like, some venue promoters will understand it, but, like, when it comes down to, hey, we have big numbers, then that talks. So let's say we packed out the Geek Easy for Orlando Overdrive and we need a bigger spot, that would be possible. That's why it's important for fans to come out, because if they come out and it grows, we can go in the bigger spaces. If I packed out the Abbey, for example, for a show and it was overwhelmingly packed, then we can make the case to move into convention space like the Wyndham or somewhere else like that, you know? So it's all going to come down to fan support. But like when it comes down to it, it's not really a nerd music thing. There's ways I can change the wording so I leave the word nerd out. I'm like, hey, I work with some independent acts here in Orlando and that travel that have a huge demographic with people that are into YouTube and the video games and the anime and comics. And these are the turnouts we get. Here's our social media numbers. Here's their social media numbers. And that will work sometimes. So I put in a strong pitch. That usually helps me out a lot. And sometimes just going there and talking to them in person helps. So that's what helped me out with the Back Booth. I was doing emails and I was going nowhere. Then I'm like, all right, I'm coming in and we're going to talk. And that's how I got the Back Booth show. And I did a couple after, or I did one more after that. And then the third one they screwed up because of a double booking. Okay. And now Back Booth's dead. That's what you get for fucking with me, guys.
The motherfucking Kent Ward destroyed them.
They destroyed themselves. I just got the ball rolling. The power of social media.
Oh, I just kind of imagined you like after they did that to you. You did, you know, like some fucking Hokuto no.
Fist of the North Star.
Well, they like pulled they pulled that on me like it was for Orlando Overdrive too. So we did Orlando Overdrive 1 there. Then we did a Metroid show. And the Metroid show is kind of like the precursor for everything else. Yeah. It was very primitive compared to what Mega Manians and Powers of Encourage were. It was just music. I should have had game setups. I should have had like maybe some artists and vendors there as well. I should have made more of an event instead of just a music show. However, that was the second one. That was my first time working with Bit Brigade and Super Guitar Bros, so that was significant because those guys have been awesome friends and great allies in our community. And for what I've been doing, they've been fantastic performers. Then we were supposed to do Orlando Overdrive 2 there, and we were on the schedule. We sold tickets and everything. And then I got a call like 3 weeks before the show. Apparently, some big national touring company, agency, or whatever, already had Back Booth booked for that night. They were not on the Back Booth website. I was. But they were selling tickets independently and promoting it through on Back Booth. And I guess they decided to check the Back Booth site, and they saw that their show wasn't on there and some other show was. So like, what the hell? But the problem with that was, like, Back Booth said I was cleared to go on that particular date and totally forgot that there was this other show that they already had booked prior to that. That's the story they told me anyways, but I was able to look at the show and found out that it was happening. So there was some truth to that. It's just due to their own competence and negligence that whole thing went down the way it did. It was unfortunate. It left a really sour taste in my mouth, but got over it, and Back Booth, you know, they got what was coming to them.
And then you were still able to save the show, right?
Yeah, luckily at the time, Aaron and Adam, Aaron Howland owned a comic shop and the Geek Easy at the time, and Adam Tyler was his manager. So I was like, I contacted them late that night after I found out. I talked to all the acts, like, what the fuck are we going to do? Because also during Florida Music Festival, which meant a lot of the venues downtown were locked anyway, so they couldn't just move me to a Will's Pub or something like that, you know? So the only option was to Geek Easy. So, luckily, Aaron was able to make things work for us on very short notice. We got the ball rolling as far as tickets being sold. I think a lot of people ended up buying tickets to the show as like sympathy for the underdogs. We got screwed by corporate America, so people had to come and support us. So it actually ended up being a really good turnout, like way bigger than the previous year, like almost double. And then it grew in the third year. But also because Aaron and Adam were super cool with letting me do that on short notice, that's when I offered them the Mega Man show. And that ended up being a smashing success. And currently the Geeky's under new ownership. There's like, you know, a transition going on with that. And they're working hard to make that a better venue. They've done some great stuff to make the stage, the lighting, the sound better. So they're working at it. And they've redone the front area because the comic shop moved out from the Geek Easy. So that's more of a lounging area. So we're going to have independent game developers back. We had that last year, so we had all that space now. So I was like, what are we going to do? We have indie game developers that are from right here in Orlando. Because I had a background in video games, but I also had a lot of friends that were working on indie games. So why not get them involved? Because what they're doing is cool and people will be interested in that. So you got these breaks between sets, and not everyone's going to like all the acts. So they're going to want to do something in between between the acts they want to see. So get to play some games that are from around here, that are made here rather. And that adds to the experience, and I think that made the event better. It definitely was something I got a lot of feedback for that was positive, so we're having that back. So we're going to have indie games up front and music in the back, and there's going to be a bar back there so people can get their drink on as well.
Maybe they'll get a taste of the Thanos that I used. No. that's my specialty, but yeah.
If it's on the menu, sure.
Save that for an Avengers event, buddy.
Yeah, so that's cool.
So one thing I was going to ask you was, because you mentioned that you originally thought maybe it would have been better back at Backbooth to have brought in more vendors and artists and things like that. So now your events are more than just the musical act. It is sort of like this mini convention experience.
Yeah.
So where did this idea come from?
Let's see. So for Mega Mania, actually, when we were planning with Aaron, he told me. Well, I knew I wanted to do the concerts. I knew like he was going to have Bit Brigade and Mega Ran on there for sure. And then do a sponsorship from Orlando Nerd Fest. We got the Megas as well, which was awesome. And then Kadesh was touring with Mega Ran, so it was great. But like during the planning process, Aaron's like, well, I want a mini con before the show. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll take care of that too and organize that. And it was a little challenging because I didn't really have a team at the time, but we had video game setups. The Geek Easy had themed Mega Man drinks. We had like a speedrun competition. We had we had speedrun competitions. We had a high score competition as well for like Mega Man 10 or whatever. We had some artists and vendors that were in the area that definitely had a lot of Mega Man stuff that they could sell. Cybertron was a vendor. They've been longtime friends of Propeller Anime, Ongaku Overdrive, pretty much anything I've been involved with. So it ended up being a cool thing. I wish that was what I did with Mega Mania, with the Metroid show. We can always revisit that idea down the road. But it was a success for Mega Man, and obviously with Zelda's going to be a bigger franchise, so we had some growth there as well. Now we got Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy can be a little bit trickier because I go through these conventions. I don't really see a lot of artwork or merchandise sold for Final Fantasy related stuff, so we'll see how that goes. But I think it's going to be a good show anyways. Musically, it'll be a fantastic show, and we're going to have a ton of great games there as well. But I feel like it's important for these events to grow that they have more than music. Like MagFest, I'll use that as an example. MagFest is like 20,000 plus people that's there for a video game music festival. That's also got like 24-hour arcade, console setups, pinball, tabletop gaming, panels, vendors, artist alley, YouTube guests, video game industry guests. It's a full-on video game convention that also has a massive music festival going on as well at the same time. So I feel like their growth was attributed to like expanding beyond music because that's what they started out with was music. But once they started adding other things to the equation, they had growth. And I'm like thinking, okay, that's what I need to do because you can only listen to so many. Most people can only listen to so many musical acts, so they need some other forms of stimulus as well. So having like game setups or art to check out or whatever, or vendors to browse and shop from, definitely adds to the experience. Or maybe just people want to just hang out and lounge somewhere and have some drinks. So we have that as well. So it's cool, all around like mini con vibe that you guys have mentioned, but I think that adds to it because it's also a focused event. Like at most conventions, they're trying to get as many different people as possible. So their strategy is we'll have something for everyone, but most cases they have like nothing for nobody. But like if you're at Mega Mania, you know it's going to be a Mega Man event.
Yeah.
If you're at Powers and Courage, you know it's going to be a Zelda event. And there's some risk there where like if you're not a fan of those games, then what's your interest in going? But most people are, and most people, we're going to get enough people there that are going to fill out the building, you know?
Yeah.
So it's going to work out either way. There's enough Mega Man fans or Zelda fans or Final Fantasy fans or Sonic fans to go around.
Yeah.
We need to work on Castlevania fans, though. I was actually hoping that would be the theme this year.
Yeah.
Like we put up a poll and Final Fantasy won by a large margin, which is totally fine because that leaves me with a lot of great musical choices. But freaking Castlevania would have been dope.
Yeah.
Especially if we got like Bit Brigade involved or who else does a lot of Castlevania music? Oh, actually, there's a new group called the Belmonts, which is really just the Megas, but it's awesome nonetheless. And then who else is there? There's a group out of Brazil called Mega Driver. And they're pretty awesome. They have like a bunch of different metal albums, and they shred really hard. But they have a whole album dedicated to Castlevania that I highly recommend. And Mega Ran and Samus did a Symphony of the Night album that's actually like a cool hip hop Symphony of the Night musical. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's quite good.
Oh, I need to check it out now.
Yeah, like the idea is like Mega Ran's gonna be Alucard. They got a guy named the Ranger who's Richter. And then Samus, which is the first time I've heard her, she played the role of Maria Renard. And it's just like, hey, telling the story. And they remixed the Castlevania Symphony of the Night soundtrack into hip-hop beats, you know, and it sounds really freaking great. But it tells a great story as well that you can follow. But if you played the game, you appreciate it even more.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I think that's what drew a lot of people that nerdcore hip-hop, especially on the video game side. It's like, it's just a cool hip-hop musical representation of your favorite games or anime. And I think that's what drew a lot of people in, especially me.
No, it's great to see. Like you know, you mentioned MagFest, and you could say like MagFest is kind of like a Coachella type festival, but for music and gaming.
Absolutely.
And like you went to these conventions, and not even just these conventions or these festivals. You know worked like through the ranks on some of these conventions, especially here in Florida, to kind of learn and see what I can learn from it, see what I can take from it. So if you can tell us that little sort of progression that you've had over the years.
Yeah, I got roped into doing MegaCon with Orange Anime, and then like when Orange Anime fizzled out, I had my own anime club. So I'm like, hey, I have some guys I can do stuff with. So we worked with Anime Sushi on that. Around the same time, I got picked up by Anime Festival Orlando to help out with their Orlandia stuff. I apologize for success. Because of what it's turned into, but it helped me get involved heavily on that in terms of paneling and scheduling later on, and that helped me grow a lot. And then most recently I got picked up by CEO Gaming, working with Alex Jabali now on growing that event, providing panel programming and whatnot. And now we're working on CEO Taku in September and transforming that to be more of an anime convention, you know. So it's super cool. It's super cool what's going on in this area, and hopefully more people find out about it so it can grow. So I was at MomoCon last weekend. Super amazing event. 39,000 people there. Yeah. MagFest is at max capacity, so it's over 20,000, maybe 25,000 people. But like seeing these amazing events, it's like that's inspiring. But on this other hand, it's like, okay, what can we do to make that happen here? Because it's not happening here. It's not even close. Like everything. I travel a lot, and a lot of stuff that I see is like years ahead of what's going on in Florida. So that's a little bit frustrating to me. I don't see why we can't have something major like that, because the numbers are there for MegaCon, even though that's a sterile, soulless corporate Comic-Con. There's people that are there that are fans of this kind of stuff, so I don't see why they can't just transition to all the other cool stuff that's happening, you know? Yeah.
Has there been like a challenge with that? Like when you're trying to book musical acts, like, do they sometimes, like certain acts maybe say like, oh, well, you don't have enough strong following yet,
Well, if it comes down to money, like if like some bands are cool with like just flights in a hotel and a little bit of money, then I can definitely take care of that in most cases. But someone want thousands of dollars, I'm like, look guys, we're not MagFest. And not everything's MagFest. And this is pretty much your only chance to play in Florida. We can make it so you don't lose money being here, but we don't have the following and fan support to make that happen. I think over the next year that will probably change. Like once our name starts getting out there more, because I'm doing more of an initiative to go around. Like I was at MomoCon letting people know about what we got going on down here, and that's people from over the southeast. And I plan to do that with Anime Weekend Atlanta later this year, and probably Otakon as well. So I think we maximize the Florida support. But I've had people that have come down from other states to be at shows like Powerism and Courage and Mega Mania, so I feel there's probably a chance they might come down for other shows if we give them advance notice. So a lot of people at MomoCon know about Warriors of Light.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can make plans to come down, especially when we start rolling things out in August.
Oh, okay. It's going to be awesome. I mean, I'm excited for Warriors of Light as well, and especially for Orlando Overdrive. It's great to see that finally, like, you know, we have this event where it's just celebrating Orlando, Central Florida, the acts here, and everything like that, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause we don't have enough of that. We don't have, like, especially in this day and age where, like, you know, most of this nerd and geek stuff is kind of like forced down our throat now. I feel like sometimes, like, it's like so easily accessible. Like, so it's like big corporations have this hand in it. It's like, okay, well, you can get this Attack on Titan stuff, you can get this blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's usually just like the top 5 shows at the time, and a lot of those shows don't really offer a lot as far as depth. So like I'm at MegaCon, it's cool that they have an anime track, I guess.
Yeah.
But like if you were there, the only anime that ever existed was My Hero Academia, according to MegaCon. If you walked around, and I'm like, that's a neat show, but like it's a derivative of Naruto, and there's like lots of anime out there that have different levels of substance to it that tell different stories, and not recognizing those is kind of a shame, and I feel like it's an insult to the anime community and anime fandom that's existed for like 30 years here in the States.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just corporate appropriation of our culture to just make sure it reaches the masses, but the masses unfortunately they don't want to go more than casually. They're fine with just a little bit of it. They want to dip their toes in, but they don't want to go in waist deep. And for those of us who are more hardcore, there's not really anything in here that really satisfies that in Florida, other than like maybe, I mean, CEO, if you're a fighting game fan, CEO is awesome. If you like retro games, Free Play Florida is cool. Anime is in a weird state right now, and if you're just in overall gaming outside of retro stuff, there's not really anything here either. So we got a lot of events in Florida, but for the most part, they don't really satisfy the taste of like people that are more than casual fans.
So when it comes to you and organizing your events, as opposed to, you know, these bigger corporations, what are some of the creative challenges you face in organizing them and theming them and making them feel like something that's unique and worth going to, that, you know, the fans can't get anywhere else?
Yeah, right. I'll use this as an example. Let's use Mega Mania. Mega Man was turning 30. Nobody was doing anything about it. So we were doing a one-of-a-kind event. There's no event out there that's going to have the Megas do the Mega stuff, which is like a sweet Mega Man themed video game rock and roll band. They weren't going to have Bit Brigade doing a Mega Man 2 speed run. They weren't going to have Mega Ran doing like his stuff. There weren't going to be like video game setups or artists or vendors themed to have Mega Man stuff to enjoy. So to me, it was a one-of-a-kind event because it was very specialized to a franchise. And there's events that are just general video games, which is cool and all, that gets a lot of people. But like one of the things that's made me stand out is, one, focusing on the local community. Two, focusing on key franchises of video games that have a lot of great music associated with it, and have a great fan base as well, people that are hungry for some specialized events like that.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, and it is true that, like, even when you were doing like Mega Mania, like, I figured, like, you know, it would be kind of a challenge to handle these franchises, like, you know, that have so much fan support. Whereas, like, maybe those companies would be like, hey, don't do that. But, like, even with Mega Mania, you had Capcom kind of like retweeting your events or something.
Yeah, that
right?
was wild too, and that's a big shout out to Mega Ran, because Mega Ran, of course, he's officially endorsed by Capcom, first rapper to have that kind of endorsement where it was like, hey, you're welcome to use our music for your raps, and we're not going to charge you for it. And he ran with the ball, and they've supported him. They've had him at E3. They've had him at other events. When they announced Mega Man 11, they actually flew him out right after Mega Mania to be a part of that and perform.
Wow, nice.
So I don't know if Mega Mania led to Mega Man 11 being a thing. I like to take credit for that, of course, because no one else was doing anything for Mega Man.
Yeah.
But because of Mega Ran's connections with Capcom, they're like, all right, we're going to post about the event, send us some graphics. And Rand texted me out of the blue about that, and I'm like, all right, cool, when we get home, I'm going to get you all the graphics you need. And they posted that stuff up on their official channels for Mega Man, not once but twice, and I could not believe it. And even from my alma mater down the street, Full Sail, they got behind it too, and they posted about it. They really got behind it when it came to Powerism and Courage. So to me, that was super cool.
That's crazy, especially in the case of Capcom supporting you guys, because I can remember there was a point where they actually sent a cease and desist to the Proto Men, didn't they?
No.
Is that, or am I confusing them with someone else? I thought it happened years ago.
I've heard that rumor, but like I don't think that's ever happened. Like it doesn't make sense to me because when they did the Mega Man 25th anniversary album, they had the Proto Men on there, they had X Hunters, they had Mega Ran, they had Arm Cannon, and I feel like there's someone else on there, but I think maybe Bit Brigade, but they got all those bands to contribute music for an album that they put out.
Okay.
So I could not see how that would be possible, especially with the Proto Men, because all their music's original. Like they tell original stories that are set in this Orwellian dystopia, and other than the Proto Man name, which they called the Proto Men, I mean, unless you can not be a fan of Mega Man and enjoy the Proto Man.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
It might have been a rumor that I just heard, because I remember it was back in around the Mega Man Legends 3 cancellation, and Capcom was just.
Yeah, I've heard that rumor too. It was definitely not true then. Like, there's other rumors like Nintendo sent a cease and desist to Metroid Metal, but they're doing stuff still. And nowadays, it's a lot easier to get licenses from companies that use music or remix their music. Like, Materia Collective does it, Game Chops does it. Random Encounter actually got licenses for their stuff as well. When they did their albums, they made sure they got their licenses in order.
It makes sense because it's more like free promotion. There would be no reason for them to stop.
And that's how Capcom used it as well, where it's like they're promoting the Mega Man franchise. Let's get on it, and they let the Mega Man 11 being announced. I mean, like 2 days after Mega Mania was when Mega Man 11 got announced live on the Capcom Twitch. So to me, it's like, well, they saw it as a promotional vehicle. We streamed it on Twitch. A lot of people tuned in. It was dope.
And you yourself stream every Wednesday on Twitch, right?
Yeah, so I felt like the idea is I want to build up our Twitch audience because we do stream some of our concerts. We will be streaming Orlando Overdrive this Saturday, and we've streamed some other shows in the past as well. But I felt if we're doing video game themed shows, why not play video games on Twitch to get people more interested in what we're doing? So if I'm doing a Zelda show, I play some Zelda games, leading into Powers and Courage. And then I might get people more interested in what we're doing. Same thing for Warriors of Light. I'm doing a lot of Final Fantasy streams. I'm currently juggling Final Fantasy 1, 6, and 7 right now. Like I'm alternating which ones I'm doing, and I'm almost about to finish one.
That's a lot of fantasies.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
They weren't really that final, were they?
No.
Yeah,
Not
so
at all.
to me that's cool, and because I'm working for CEO, I'm doing a monthly fighting game night with my buddy, Brother Keo, and whoever else wants to come out and throw down. So we're going to do an SNK themed one coming up soon.
Nice.
But I feel like since we got CEO and I'm attached to the fighting game community, why not just do that to promote CEO and also show my cred, because I can, even though I'm an old man, I can still go. And you 2009 guys, you don't even know about the real fighting games.
Yeah.
You couldn't hang on a CVS 2 or Third Strike, y'all.
Oh man,
It's a challenge.
I was just gonna say that
those are
sounds like
some
a
of my
challenge.
favorite. Those are some of my favorite fighting games.
Absolutely. So yeah, I like those classic, like that golden era that was the late 90s, early 2000s. You also had King of Fighters 98 included with that.
Yeah.
Last Blade 2, Garo Mark of the Wolves is my favorite.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Push
Rival
nude
Schools.
butt.
Yes, Mark. That's funny that you say that. So he's Kush Nude Butt in the American release. Do you know what his name in Japan is?
I forgot.
Marco Rodriguez.
Yeah, Marco Rodriguez. Yeah. Oh, we know Marco. No,
That's right.
Marco Rodriguez.
Yeah, the Battle
Shout
Spear
out
guy.
to Marco.
Well,
You
that
seen him
was
on our
hilarious.
show.
When I eventually met Marco Rodriguez, that was like the first thing I thought. That's hilarious. But like those games are dope, so we do that too. But it's been a lot of Final Fantasy games and a lot of classic Nintendo games and indie games. But every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, I'm on there for like 2 or 3 hours, just having fun with games. And if people come in the chat and chat with me, I will talk right back. And the more people that are in the chat, the better the stream is, because I get to be more lively instead of just. It's cool, I'll sit there and play a game and I'll have some commentary, but I feel like if I'm interacting with the chat, it's a much better experience for everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one thing too. Is people can come onto the Twitch stream and ask about your events. They could get that one-on-one, get the information right from the source.
Yeah.
About, hey, what's going on with this? What's going on with that?
Mm-hmm.
So make sure to tune in on his Twitch.
Yeah, I'll drop some announcements on there from time to time. And I guess we mentioned this Orlando Overdrive show a few times. We haven't really talked about who's on there and what's going on. So it's going to be this Saturday, June the 8th at the Geek in Winter Park, Florida, right across the street from Full Sail University. We're going to have 8 musical acts of different kinds. We're going to have video game music represented. We're going to have anime music represented. We're going to have hip-hop. We're going to have rap. We're going to have electronic. We're going to have songs about geeky culture as well. So this lineup, which is stacked, is IQ, who won Orlando Weekly's Best of Orlando for Best Hip Hop Act.
Awesome,
The first nerdcore act to do that. The first act who was not Solo Acoustic Sound to do that as well. We have Mark with a C on there, whose latest music video, Today is Gonna Be Your Day. I believe that's the name of the song. That actually made the shortlist, the top 100 for the Grammys for Best Music Video.
Holy shit.
And he's been around, like he's an icon of Orlando music. DJ Joe, he just played to a sold-out crowd at MomoCon. Like, people were outside waiting to get in, but it was like thousands of people just rocking out to Joe. He's been a master on YouTube, but also he's got an amazing anime, video game, Vocaloid remixes, a lot of Zelda stuff, so he's got a mix of all that. We have Underplayers, which is a mix of video game as well as like original metal and synth tracks. They're a duo that will be playing at the Geek Easy, and they've been all over town. They've been growing, and I feel like in a year or so they'll probably explode. Then we have Ben Briggs, who's been around, feels like forever. He's an alumni of Overclocked Remix. He's worked with Game Chops. He runs the Tiny Waves music label. He's been doing very good with that, and anywhere he's gone, he's put on a hell of a show. He's like one of the best video game remixers out there. Then we got Geek Capella, who have played at conventions all over the Southeast, Anime Fest Orlando, Hana Matsuri, Dragon Con, MegaCon, MomoCon, most recently. They're a nerdy a cappella group. They have a lot of great songs, ranging from anime like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to like the music from Kingdom Hearts. So they have like great a cappella arrangements of things like Simple and Clean. I'm trying to think of some other ones that they do. They did like a nice, cool original Smash song I saw them do at AFO. But they have like a lot of cool stuff. Half-Life, not Half-Life. Is it Half-Life? Portal.
Yeah, Portal.
They do the Portal song as well. They have a lot of cool stuff. They're very fun.
Yeah.
And then we have Magla, who's another awesome hip-hop act here in Orlando, Florida, who's been tearing it up as well. He just killed it at South by Southwest, which is a big entertainment conference that takes place in Austin, Texas. He's been doing music for independent games as well as of late. He's got a new album coming out, but his performances are incredibly hype. And last but not least, one of my personal favorite people. He's been killing it on YouTube and Twitch. He's an accordion master. He played in the final edition of Random Encounter, but he does accordion covers every week on YouTube to check out. He does live concerts on Twitch. He's been doing great with that. And in addition to accordion, he can play piano and sing and do all kinds of stuff. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got great wit, great interaction with the audience. He can just play things on the go. There's a lot of improvisation with his live performance. It is none other than the full entertainment package that is Jackson Perotti.
Man, that's a stacked lineup.
Yeah.
And I look forward to being, working that event too. Like, you're going to be streaming it as well.
Yeah, you guys are going to help filming with that, so that's going to be
right.
cool. So that'll be on twitch.tv/Ongaku Overdrive. We just hit 200 follows, so make sure you do that as well.
Yeah.
We'll be starting the stream around 5:30 Eastern Time this Saturday. The ambulance is making sure that people get there safely. That's what's going. We got to...
And the fire truck's going because it's going to be
Wow. That was pretty intense. So we're in Orlando, Florida. It's not Orlando if there's not fire trucks and ambulances driving around at any given time. Our city's wild.
Yeah, it's our weekly Florida man story.
Yeah. He's just
Not
at
weekly,
it again.
it's daily, almost hourly at this point. There's like websites that just exclusively cover what goes on in Florida. So we have some great acts. We're gonna have an independent game showcase. I'm gonna work with the Geekies on having some drink specials as well. The Geekies is a cool bar with a lot of great drinks. So it's gonna be a good party, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of good times, and you should definitely come out. Tickets are available on OngakuOverdrive.com, and you can get tickets at the door. And if you can't be in Orlando, of course, Twitch is an option, but it's better to be there, because it helps the artists out. Like, for a lot of these guys, it's the only time they get paid. The only time they get paid to play in Orlando.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I'll tell a Geek Capella story. They had to do MegaCon, and just to get passes for their group, they had to do 6 panels on top of their 2 performances they did at MegaCon.
What?
Like, they didn't even get paid. Like, they just got passes. Like, passes for MegaCon means nothing because there's nothing to do there. If you're doing that many panels anyways, you got to prep for them. You got to get ready for them at the show. So it's like you're spending all this time in an anime track getting ready to do events and not really enjoying the convention. So I thought that was pretty rotten. But that's what happens at these cons around here is that they get musical acts and they treat them like crap. So we're trying to change that as well.
Yeah.
And show the people that, hey, you really like these musical acts, you need to see them at our events because we're going to take care of the acts and it's going to be a good time and they're going to get the respect and compensation that they deserve.
And do stay tuned on the Facebook of Ongaku Overdrive for more future news about the events like Warriors of Light.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
gonna be a lot of stuff coming out.
Also follow them on Twitter.
Yeah.
They have an
everything's
Instagram as well.
Yeah,
We'll
everything's
include-
at Ongaku Overdrive.
We'll include all the links in the description of this video so you can find them very easily.
Yeah, Warriors Away. That'll be November 9th at the Abbey, right by Lake Eola in downtown Florida. That'll be a Final Fantasy themed event. It'll be amazing. Already got 2 acts signed. Working on act number 3. Hoping to have 4 or 5 acts at the show, in addition to like vendors and artists and game setups. Urgites is going to be at Warriors of Light. God bless the ring. We're gonna have the city there. We're gonna have a lot of classic Final Fantasy games. Hopefully, Crystal Chronicles will be out by then, because I think it's cool to have like RPGs there that people can jump to, like Final Fantasy 7 or 6 or 1 or whatever. But having some like non-RPG games like Urgites or Crystal Chronicles, I think that'll be a cool experience as well. We'll be rolling out more information in August around Anime Festival Orlando and Tampa Bay Comic Con. So if you're at those events, you're gonna know what we're doing and who's going to be there. So stay tuned for that in August.
All right, guys, with that being said, thanks for watching Geek Tank. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment. Let us know how we're doing. And then definitely follow the motherfucking Camp Ward.
Yeah.
So you get news on these events. And, get that geek and nerd stuff in you.
Support the artists.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you guys for having me.